Someone somewhere has probably told you that sugar feeds cancer. Maybe a well meaning friend, maybe a post in a Facebook group, maybe Google, maybe an article that left you feeling terrified and guilty every time you reached for, say, a piece of fruit. Here's what I want you to know before we go any further. That claim is not evidence, it's actually fear dressed up as health advice. And the fear around sugar, I think, is doing more harm to women in recovery than sugar ever could. The real story is more nuanced. As always in nutrition, it's more nuanced than sugar feeds cancer. It's also far more useful because once you understand what's actually happening with sugar in a body that's been through treatment, been through cancer, you can stop eating in a state of anxiety and start making choices that actually genuinely support your recovery. That's what we're decoding today. I'm Melissa Merchant. I'm a certified integrative cancer coach. And before this work, I was a litigation lawyer, which meant that I spent years being paid to read evidence and work out what a source actually proves, not what a headline claims it proves. I read research papers the same way now. Now, I'm not new to this. I came through this work by my own diagnosis. In 2017, I was diagnosed with intestinal neuroendocrine cancer and sent home with cancer still in my body after a bit of treatment, surgeries, all the things, and no plan for what to do next. I've been no evidence of disease since 2019, and I'm not telling you that to promise you an outcome. I have no right to promise. I'm telling you because the gap between where you are now and what's possible is almost always a matter of information and support. But remember, information without action is useless. And I've worked with more than 600 women now worldwide, and the sugar conversation is one that I have constantly because the confusion around it is genuinely getting in the way of women feeling better. So let's take the claim apart. Sugar feeds cancer. Where does that come from? Let me tell you, because there's a real phenomenon buried under the fear. Every cell in your body, every single one, runs on glucose. Cancer cells do tend to use glucose at a higher rate than most normal cells. We found that out from an observation first made by a researcher named Otto Warburg back in the 1920s. And it's the kernel of truth that the claim and everything after is built on. But it's not the whole picture. And now here's what gets left out. And it's the part that matters. You cannot selectively starve cancer cells of glucose by avoiding sugar on your plate. Your blood sugar is tightly regulated by several hormone systems working together. And when you eat fewer carbohydrates, your liver has the ability to simply make glucose from other sources to keep your blood levels steady. There's no diet that quietly removes the glucose from your bloodstream. The only thing that does that is hypoglycemia, and that's a medical emergency, not a recovery strategy. So, no, a slice of birthday cake does not feed your cancer in any direct, meaningful way. But I'm not telling you to eat the birthday cake. A treat now and then is totally fine, right? Totally fine. But I don't want you eating the added sugar in abundance because it causes a tremendous amount of inflammation. And a tremendous amount of inflammation, something that cancer does love. But it's not really about the sugar in the birthday cake directly feeding your cancer cells. Because here's the part that nobody says out loud. The guilt and the dread that makes a woman eat like in a constant state of anxiety actually may do more harm to her internal environment than that birthday cake ever would. Chronic stress raises cortisol. Cortisol raises blood glucose. That raises inflammation, and the fear becomes the very thing it claims to protect against. Now, what is true and absolutely, like I said, does matter is blood sugar regulation. Research on cancer recovery consistently links unstable blood sugar with higher inflammatory markers, more fatigue, disrupted sleep, and in some studies, more poor or poorer long-term outcomes. Not directly because sugar feeds cancer, but because a body riding constant blood sugar spikes and crashes is a body in a stressed terrain. And a stressed terrain doesn't support recovery. Think of it like water in a fish tank, as I always say. You can medicate the fish all you like, but if the water stays dirty, cloudy, the fish is likely to keep struggling. Steadying your blood sugar is one way that you can start to clean the water. Now, when women hear the sugar message, sugar feeds cancer, they usually reach for one of two things, and neither one works. The first is total elimination, cutting out all sugar, all carbs, every processed food, starting today, all at once. And this collapses within days or weeks for almost everyone. Not because she's weak, but because it ignores biology. It ignores how cravings work. It ignores the reality of eating with a family and a life, and the rigidity ramps up the psychological stress that drives blood sugar up in the first place. Just tell you you can't have it, it's all you want, right? It's all you want. The plan creates the problem it was meant to solve. The second thing this woman usually reaches for is avoidance and vigilance. She eats around a growing list of rules, reads every label, declines food at a dinner that she used to enjoy, carries a low hum of dread about whether what she just ate was wrong. It's exhausting. It's exhausting, and it shrinks her world. And that constant food anxiety has its own effect on the internal environment, the very terrain she's trying to support. Here's the thing that both of those approaches miss. Neither one addresses blood sugar regulation. They're aimed at a villain, sugar, that was never the real lever. So let's talk about what the research actually supports, the levers that steady blood sugar without fear, without elimination or strict rules about what you're allowed to eat. Let's build a plate that steadies blood sugar. And the single biggest lever isn't what you take away, it's what you add and how you combine it. When you eat protein and healthy fats alongside your carbohydrates, the things that have a higher glycemic index, faster blood sugar into your system, you slow down how fast glucose enters your bloodstream. Lower spike, gentler drop, steadier energy. So the carbohydrate didn't become the enemy. You just changed how your body experiences it. And that principle alone shifts more for you than any strict elimination plan. Now, I want to be clear here. The birthday cake should be a treat. But when women talk to me about sugar feeds cancer, they think it includes all the fruit as well. It doesn't, right? But use the don't eat your carbs naked. That's what I was just talking about. Eat your carbohydrates with a protein and a healthy fat. It makes all the difference in leveling out your blood sugar. The next thing is structure and timing, because a body handles small, regular, balanced meals far better than long gaps followed by one large hit. When you go hours and hours and hours without eating and then you eat a big meal, you get a dramatic spike and crash And that's what drives fatigue and cravings. Regular structure smooths that curve. Notice this is about rhythm, not really restriction. Another big tip is moving after meals. And this is one of the most accessible tools that there is. Research suggests that gentle movement after eating, even a 10-minute walk, helps your muscles pull glucose out of your bloodstream and lowers the size of that post-meal spike. For example, like a short walk after dinner is actually one of the most evidence-supported blood sugar levers that's available to you, and it costs nothing. The foods most linked to problematic blood sugar patterns are the ultra-processed foods and refined sugars, the added sugar. They don't add value or nutrition to your body by and large. They don't have much fiber. They probably have very little to no protein or fat to slow it down in your system. So yeah, you should limit those for sure and make it a very small part, a treat now and then. Reducing how much of your overall eating involves these ultra processed foods matters. But eliminating them entirely and carrying guilt every time you don't quite manage it does not. It's the proportion that's the lever. 80-20, 90-10. 80% of the time be really, really good. 20% of the time, give yourself permission to not be so good. But here's the thing. Quite often, you're not going to take advantage for that 20% because feeling well is a big driver of success. And when you have foods that are ultra processed, once you get your blood sugar sorted out, you notice how rubbish you feel. So most people that I work with don't actually end up taking advantage of the 20%, right? You don't need to be perfect. You need to make progress. Now, stress is a blood sugar issue too, by the way. And this is one that most people skip. Cortisol, your main stress hormone, raises your blood sugar, your blood glucose directly. Chronic stress, including the anxiety around whether you just ate the wrong thing and is it going to cause your cancer to come back, keeps cortisol elevated, which means managing your stress load is managing your blood sugar. These were never two separate conversations. Now, what your plate should actually look like, how this maps onto your treatment stage, your medications, and what your blood work is telling you, that's the personalized part. And that's the work that I do with women inside Cancer to Confidence, my coaching program, where we map your terrain and build the plan around your specific situation. But you don't need a program to start moving in the right direction today. The levers that I gave you are real and they're yours. But if you want a practical, structured starting point for moving your eating in an anti-inflammatory direction without the overwhelm and without the strict rules, I have something for you. I have a 7-day anti-inflammatory reset, which was built for exactly this. It's free. It's designed for women in cancer recovery or cancer treatment, and it's far gentler and more sustainable than any hardcore elimination plan. The link is in the description below. And of course, as always, if you'd like to look at what a personalized approach to your treatment plan and recovery could look like, I offer a cancer thriving assessment. It's a free 60-minute call where we look at your whole picture together, your terrain, your symptoms, and we figure out your best next step. The link to that is in the description as well. If this was at all useful to you, I'd love it if you would subscribe. I publish weekly on cancer treatment, cancer recovery, nutrition, fatigue, hormone therapy, fear of recurrence, and more. All of it evidence-informed, none of it fear-based. I'll see you in the next one.